Howdy. Hola. Ciao. Guten Tag. Konnichiwa. Bonjour. Assalamu alaikum. Shimaku? Nope, shikamu. That's Swahili. Shikamu. Namaste, everybody, and welcome to TOMTalks.
Aloha.
There you go. I'm your host, Heath Parker, as usual. I play Titanium Mike on Southern Tomfoolery's podcast, and I'm joined today, as always, by Mr. Mardi Gras himself, Adam Kelly. How'd the festivities treat you?
Good. I'm all the way recovered now.
Good.
It only took a week and a half.
We do have a guest today who I'm really excited about, and I've decided, much like that cat meme with salami, TOMTalks listeners can have a little bit of Emily as a treat. So, how are you today, Miss Emily Summerlin?
So I am a little hungover because I did Mardi Gras late, and last night was Mardi Gras priority, and
what was that?
I think that would sum it up. Priority. But I'm with two of my favorite cats, and I'm doing some fun STF stuff right now. So as far as drunken hungoverness goes, I'm pretty fucking good.
Yeah, well, that segues into my first question, which was how was your weekend?
That way.
Yeah, I gathered how yours was.
Mine was good. It was quiet. It was a very nice, quiet weekend. Relaxing. I've made brunch at my house today. It was nice.
Nice.
So fancy. What did you make? I'm sorry, I need to know this.
Scrambled eggs, bacon, polenta grits, some toast, some champagne and orange juice, you know.
Those placenta grits are really good.
Thanks, I hate it.
Is our goal to make Emily throw up by the end of this Tom Talk?
That doesn't take a lot.
It can be. So I've had, I don't know, I guess you take the good with the bad. I had to go to a funeral this weekend. My great aunt passed away. It's fine. Like, she was up there in years, and it was time, you know. I mean, her husband had passed away in the last year, and, you know, she wasn't going to hang around for much longer, but still, it was really sad. She has a really big family. You know, she was my grandma's sister-in-law, and my grandma has 12 siblings. So,
wow.
Yeah, there's like 1 million people there. And it was a, you know, beautiful service and all that. But other than that, which, you know, is really sad. I worked a lot on, I'm going to run Dawn of Flame, in the next month or two. And so I've been doing all the like Roll20 work on that. Thanks, Adam, for helping me out with it.
Sure. Yeah.
That is not an announcement for you rabid listeners, because this is not part of the show. This is practice for me, and so some of our friends can get an experience playing Starfinder. But I also hung out with Zach pretty much all weekend. Played some Monster Hunter, watched some Altered Carbon, you know. So even when I wasn't playing Starfinder, I feel like I was like still had Starfinder on the brain.
Yeah, it's just a regular sci-fi type of weekend, huh?
Yeah, it really was. So I suggested to you guys that for this episode of Tom Talks, you guys get yourself some what I refer to as special occasion beers, because today is all about the brew, and by that I mean homebrew content in TTRPGs. So before we move on, what are you guys sipping on?
Well, I got one of my favorite home brews from my home, right there in Hattiesburg, from Southern Prohibition Brewing Company. I got the Devil's Harvest Breakfast IPA. It's long time been one of my favorite beers, and you know, it holds a special place in my heart, being from Hattiesburg and everything. It was one of their OG flavors. They actually changed it. I did not like the original version of Devil's Harvest. It wasn't that good, but they changed it to this Breakfast IPA, which is now, it's like a go-to beer. I freaking love it.
That is also one of my favorite beers, like, in the world, and I completely agree with you. I didn't like the original. It was like darker and had a weird bite to it, and the Breakfast IPA is delicious.
Yeah, the original one, it just tasted muddy.
Yeah.
So, this is
Here we go.
interesting.
Okay. Okay.
So first off, this was planned in as much as Heath said, hey, get some specialty beers. And I'm like, hi. And so I also am drinking a Devil's Harvest because it is literally the first IPA that I ever liked. It was what transitioned me from like a complete dark beer porter snob into actually trying to, drink lighter, happier beers. And it's actually, I first tried it at Southern Prohibition on the tap, and it was delicious, and it changed my whole worldview. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to highlight it today. And also because it's a breakfast IPA and it's kind of light and it won't hurt my tongue because I'm still a little drunk.
So you need to go get one? Is that what you're saying?
If you're okay with that.
Yeah, we can pause for a second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Hold on.
No, you're fine. Okay, so Emily's back.
Hi.
So you brought the beer now to the event that you bought the beer for.
Yes.
Right? You're good now.
Yeah, I'm solid. You're really
There it is.
There you go.
The am's prepared.
Well,
Shush.
you're here now. You did it.
I did
I'm
it.
proud of you.
So
man.
I went and got a pick 6 of a bunch of crazy beers, and I'm actually going to roll a d6 to see which one I pick.
Oh.
No, I like it.
All right, I rolled a 1.
Okay.
And that will be an Elysian Dayglow IPA.
That is a good beer.
It's very good.
That
Nice.
is a good beer.
Well,
I
as
like their space dust too.
That's
It's really good.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, as I, finish beers, I'll inform you of the next ones I get. I'll try and roll die, see how I randomize them. Anyways, yeah, like I said, this episode is focused on homebrew, okay, and which is a word, as we know, that is, or maybe didn't know, I don't know, that's rooted in the brewing of beers, right?
Yes.
So, before we can dig further into the topic, let's start at the beginning, okay? So what is homebrew? And that may sound like a simple question, especially to TTRPG veterans, but there's actually, I found out, a lot of confusion and debate around the topic. I looked at several forums and Reddit conversations and threads people have had about the nature of homebrew. One observation posited that since the term homebrew does in fact originate in the brewing of beers, that homebrew is best defined as any TTRPG content that is not commercially available from official sellers. Homebrewed beer is exactly that, brewed at home, not licensed or sold by a company or distributor. So, according to that logic, any element of a game at all, whether in an adventure path, campaign setting, or completely fabricated world, that is not commercially available is homebrewed. However, there are those who have differing beliefs about homebrew. Some people think the term homebrew should be exclusively reserved for wholly original content, particularly, I'm not even drinking yet, in regard to rules, lore, and settings. And there are even more folks who think homebrew is something achievable within the framework of a published AP or campaign setting once you change enough of the rules and lore as to make them recognizably distinct from the AP or campaign setting's original intent. For some, it seems to be a slippery slope, and for others, it seems quite simple and direct. So, how about you guys? What are your thoughts on the definitions of homebrew?
Adam, you go first.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if we clash thoughts on this.
I mean, I think that a lot of that kind of sums it up. I mean, I know that there's a lot of different angles in what you just said, but I think it really does come down to homebrew is when you create something using I guess you don't even have to use the tool sets. You can homebrew your own system, but I think it covers anything from making your own system from scratch to homebrewing a particular item that you put into a published game. So, like, you can homebrew a piece of armor that isn't in the armory or isn't in the player's handbook, you know, that you've made specifically tailored for the character and the story that they're living. You could homebrew a couple rules, like a mini game. I mean, I think all of that falls under that purview of homebrewing.
So you're agreeing with the first kind of definition posited, which is that any content whatsoever that's not commercially available, whether it be within the framework of a campaign or not, is homebrew.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't see a huge reason to like limit it beyond that. You know, like I don't see the purpose in reducing its scale, you know?
Yeah, one thing that kind of concerned me while I was doing the research is the people that were very adamant about homebrew being like, no, you're creating your own setting, you're creating your own rules or things like that. One thing that worried me was like, is this a form of gatekeeping? You know, like, are you trying to prevent people from having their own creativity acknowledged because they're not creating something wholly original?
I wonder what those people might call, you know, a particular item that let's say you're playing Curse of Strahd and you drop an item in there that's not in the module or in any of the published material, right? I mean, that's still a created. What would they call that then?
Yeah.
If not a homebrewed item. Yeah,
that's kind of my curiosity as well. Is like, well, if homebrew is that specific thing, the wholly original content, in a large scale, then what terminology do you use? You know?
Yeah. It looks like Adam and I are pretty much in the same camp. My thought on homebrew is it's anything that, and any scale thing that isn't already, as you said, readily available to the commercial public, or some iteration of what is. Like, again, and I'm going to go back to this. Y'all can go ahead and prepare yourselves. There's going to be a lot of nods to Curse of Strahd. Because
don't worry about that, because we're going to have some too.
So that's a game that we're all familiar with. We've all played, and two of us have, and or are, currently GMing. There's so many instances where, I mean, that's a very specific campaign setting. But there is so much shit that I have homebrewed in that. And if me creating a specialized item or creating or taking a character that's supposed to be a throwaway NPC and building them into like a top 3, you know, important person that they have to interact with, if that's not like some iteration of homebrewing, then I don't know what it is, you know? I don't think that creating an entire world should be considered the only, like, the one true way of homebrew, you know? You shouldn't have to recreate a fucking universe to be validated for your creations.
So I think to that point, kind of, if we're going back to the homebrew as like a reference to beer kind of thing, I think, and maybe I'm putting words in people's mouths, but the people that don't necessarily agree with the first definition, that any content whatsoever that is not commercially available is homebrew, people that disagree with that, I feel like the argument they might use is, well, are you homebrewing a beer if you just add a little bit of vanilla into a Devil's Harvest, you know?
So with that, I will counter by saying, what if you're taking all of the ingredients that are readily available in a Devil's Harvest, but you are adding that vanilla? Like, I mean, why is it got to be that I'm just... And in response, yes, I'm adding... I want to add Tabasco to my Devil's Harvest to make myself feel snazzy and fancy. Yes, I just homebrew the shit out of that beer.
See, with beer, I disagree. Like, I completely disagree. Like, adding Tabasco or vanilla to a Devil's Harvest is not making your own beer. Like, you just augmented an already commercially available beer.
I made it mine.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I feel like at that point, though, the metaphor gets lost a little bit, because you're not brewing it anymore. You know, you're adding to an already brewed product, right? So you would have to make your own beer, your own, you'd have to do it from scratch to say you're home brewing. But I think that's it kind of gets lost there. I will say that I do think there might need to be a distinction between homebrew and third-party materials, and I do think that there is a valid distinction between those. So if I were to use something I purchase off Drive-Thru RPG, for example,
or like Kobold Press or something,
right, that's not homebrew, that's a third-party publisher, and I'm still using published material.
Well, and to go back to the metaphor, like adding Tabasco to a Devil's Harvest, the Devil's Harvest is already commercially available, but also you didn't make the Tabasco, like
fair enough. So I didn't homebrew that beer. I used a third party
substance. Yeah. So it seems to me that a lot of this gets tied into two things, and that is oddly enough finance. Like that it is commercially available, that it is for sale, that a company or entity is profiting off of it. The things that are not homebrewed, and also that you did it yourself, that you didn't get it from a third party, that it's all from your own mind. And I found it odd that so much of the conversation is so financial, because like I don't think anybody who plays TTRPGs does it to be like, well, I purchased this as though it's a brag, or like I only purchased this because I support Wizards of the Coast or Paizo so much, not because I was interested in the creativity of the product or what I could add to it, So I think overall the whole conversation is tricky and is very problematic and not like you're going to get drug under the bus for it, but it's very hard to talk about with people that disagree in these regards.
Yeah, I mean, I think for simplicity's sake and for just discussing, a hobby, a homebrew can be pretty easily defined as a creation at a table. You know what I mean? And in that it's something that you do for your particular game, whatever, for your home game, as it were. Like this is whether it's a single item or an entire campaign setting, you're adding your own personality and table dynamic to the mechanics of a game. You're homebrewing. Yeah. Parts of it, all of it, some of it, none of it,
Yeah, I that's where I'm at on it. Semantics aside, I think it's whatever you are bringing to the table that doesn't already exist.
Right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say this now. For the sake of the discussion of the rest of this Tom Talk, there's going to be a lot of me playing devil's advocate, right? Because I think we're kind of all in agreement that, like, homebrew is kind of a loose term of just shit you add into a game, whether or not you're playing an established AP or not, right? But for the sake of talking about it, I've got to play the other side. So let's talk about settings, okay? What about settings? Because I find this to be one of those slippery aspects of the discussion. Like, how significant of a change has to be made to an established campaign or adventure setting for that to matter, or for the how much of a change has to be made to the lore or the NPCs, like at what degree is it officially different enough to be a homebrew, If you just take, especially like say you take Strahd from Curse of Strahd, but you change him and make him your own or make him a different character, like it's like at what point is it no longer you're using their NPC?
So, I guess that this is a very personal. This is just me. I don't necessarily know that the term, the semantics behind it really matter so much to me. Like I don't care if somebody considers like my iteration of Strahd to be homebrew or just like I fucked up the stat block, Mostly I don't necessarily look at it in that manner, I suppose. So I guess it's hard for me to.
Well, I mean, I think that even if you're playing it directly by the book, it's going to be different table to table, just because that's the nature of the game, and the story is going to evolve and adapt to the people that are playing it at that session. The Curse of Strahd game that Heath and I played with Zach is very different than the Curse of Strahd game that I'm running and that you're running. But I wouldn't say I've homebrewed Curse of Strahd into something else, but it's different, and Strahd is doing different things in my game than he did in the one that I played, because it's different protagonists, different PCs doing different things to irritate him or amuse him in different ways. And
I wouldn't say that any of the changes that I've made to the core setting or some of the core characters were intentionally for the sake of, I just want this to be homebrewed. I want it to be different. It's more or less like this thing happened, and along the way I was like, this will fuck with my players real good, so we're going to make a slight adjustment. Or going into it knowing some of my player characters' backgrounds. Like, I went ahead and made a few adjustments and added a few different aspects to our particular setting. So I guess I don't necessarily see it as overtly homebrewed for the sake of I wanted it to be this. It's more or less circumstantial, I suppose.
So I ask because I know me, like, as a player, I like to engage with NPCs in creative ways. For a long time, to the chagrin of Adam, I would always try to find really annoyingly creative solutions to situations and conversations, and kind of force the DM to add personality, add different traits, add new wrinkles on the fly, sometimes thereby influencing the table's perception of that NPC or what have you, perhaps contrary to how he or she was originally portrayed.
But I don't think that that's homebrewing. I don't think that falls under the purview of, that's just the nature of playing these types of games, that everything should be dynamic and responsive to the table that's going on, and that these NPCs should be alive in their own body. But it's not homebrewing or rewriting, a campaign. I mean, let's take Weldy for example. He was literally a blurb of a sentence. Like, he was more of a descriptor of Corsica than he was his own character, right? It says Corsica, there's all this stuff about her, and she has a teenage son, and that is all that is said about Weldy. But Weldy became something much bigger just because of the natural playing of the game. But I wouldn't say that I homebrewed Weldy. I just developed Weldy. Where it became a homebrew is when Emily decided to make a world around him and his friends. That's when so the world that Weldy is in is homebrew, but Weldy himself isn't a homebrew.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think kind of to Emily's point earlier that she doesn't necessarily do things like for the sake of homebrewing, and I totally understand that, but I do think there are people that do. Like, there are people that are very hardcore in the homebrew thing. Like, I need every element of what I'm doing to be altered in some way so that I can call it homebrewed. So I can I don't want to say it's just so they can feel better about themselves or feel more creative. But like, I think there are people onus.
They want that onus. They want to know that this is something that I have fully created, that I have full control over, that no one from an outside source can say, oh, you're doing it wrong. Fuck you. I made this myself. So I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah, well, and as much as that's not an experience that I've had, I think, if this conversation to some degree is tied up in finance, it's almost like people that are like hardcore in the homebrew camp like that, where everything needs to be homebrewed, are kind of like, raging against the machine to some degree. Like, I don't want to be forced into an avenue just because the company that made this posited it that way,
Yeah.
I just find that interesting because, like I said, I think we're all kind of on the same page just as far as like what we think homebrew is, but we also are, our opinions are far removed from other people out there that only exclusively play what they call homebrew content.
Yeah, I mean, maybe so. Maybe our opinions on the value of homebrew is different, but I think we are all. I mean, if I understand it correctly, we're we're still defining homebrew the same way, as something that is removed from a published, purchasable content, right? It's just, I think what we're kind of discussing and maybe debating now is, does your games have to be homebrewed to be pure? You know, and no, the answer is absolutely no. I don't think that they have to be homebrewed to be pure, but I understand the value and the allure, especially for somebody who is creative and doesn't want to be pigeonholed in by a purchased adventure, you know?
Yeah. Well, and you know, kind of my point here is not necessarily to agree or disagree with you guys, but just to like force us to explore a little bit these conversations that other people have that think in different ways than we do. So to that point, what like character creation, okay? So I think it's kind of inevitable that like some of your players are going to write backstories that interact with settings and lore. I mean, just by the very nature of players creating characters, they engage with the world of an adventure. The game itself is affected in ways that aren't commercially available, right? Mm-hmm. Like your stat block, like let's take Titanium Mike. Like, I mean, I'm using a soldier build. I'm using stats from the game or whatever, but like Mike's backstory is not something that is commercially available from Paizo, you know? I
guess what I was trying to say earlier is that I don't think narrative is homebrew. I think the narrative is always in flux. When I think of homebrew, I'm thinking of a mechanical thing or a complete world that has been made, as opposed to every character has a backstory that's not accounted for or planned for in published material. That's how you play the game. Like, they give you everything but the protagonist. In every bit of published material, you as the player create the protagonist, and they don't write anything for you for that as far as what your individual backstory is going to be. And I don't think that because you have a deep and thought out backstory that you're homebrewing anything. You are just being very creative and thoughtful about your character creation. It would be a homebrew if we said, well, the soldier isn't really fitting what your character idea is, so we're going to adjust the actual mechanics of a soldier to be something more specific to what you wanted to be, and we're changing the rule set. Then you start getting into homebrew territory. But outside of that, that's just narrative fluff, you know, that's never going to be published. You know, you can't buy a character. I mean, you could, but you should, don't do that. Probably should. You're getting ripped off.
It's just say you're missing the point.
Yeah, well, and you know, again, I bring that up because there are such conflicting views on what homebrew consists of, you know, like, and it tripped me out. Like, the thing is, homebrew is not something I really even thought about a lot because I have very limited experience with anything homebrewed. I mean, a little bit, but just not a whole lot. And I'm certainly not one of those people that is like craving to like have every aspect of my gaming life homebrewed for the originality inherent to that, you know. But I don't know, it really was weird to me when I started researching it, like how far down the rabbit hole I kind of went. I spent several hours just reading through like, oh shit, that's not an opinion that I would ever have even realized was an opinion. Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying any of them are invalid, but some of them are a lot more rigid, you know, and I think there are ways that the nature of the game itself kind of rails against some of these much more rigid definitions of homebrew.
So to kind of like speak to the character portion of what you brought up, so I'll throw this out there and you tell me if you think that this is considered, and Adam, if you consider this homebrewing, this character mechanics, or if this is just a narrative adjustment. So there is a very minimal NPC in Curse of Strahd. He is like a thief, I think, or maybe an assassin. It's Ernst.
Okay.
He's basically an errand boy for one of the minor baddies in Vallaki, I think. Mm-hmm. So in my game, Ernst is not just a run-of-the-mill human that is a lackey. He's actually a Rakshasa that has been trapped in Barovia by his essentially like contract holder mistress. And he is now like one of our characters' biggest frenemies. And so I basically took that very minimal, and I cannot even remember what Ernst's, stat block is. I think he is some form of like assassin or thief or something to that effect. But now he's like a badass.
Full-blown PC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes. So how would you look at that?
Yeah, that's a great example. And I think that kind of speaks to what Heath is talking about this gray area here that can be said, because I don't necessarily consider that homebrew, but I can certainly see that there is an argument to be made that it could be. To me, you're just developing the game that you're playing with, and I feel like that's just part of every game, or it should be, like you should have that freedom as a GM to develop any of the NPCs as fits your campaign, and you're still using the rule set of 5e to build this guy. You didn't create your own abilities or anything. You just built him out as a character. So I don't feel like you homebrewed, you just embellished,
So to clarify, the question is because he's a secret Rakshasa?
Yes.
Okay. And that's not the way that the adventure describes him.
No.
You just added that element in. I mean, I don't know. That is different than the way it was presented. I mean, I will say that.
I'm not going to argue that. It definitely is. I think it's just, does that make it homebrew, or is it just embellishing the story?
And again, this wasn't to get a hard and fast, because I don't have a hard and fast answer for that. I just say, it's a thing that I wanted to do, so I did it. And it properly fucked with my characters. I think if we're sticking to that first definition of anything not commercially available, I think it kind of does fall under it, because that's not the way that it's sold to you. If we're sticking to finance, Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not sticking to that definition for what it's worth. That's not where I'm landing in it,
Adam is pretty against labels, so it's cool. It's fine.
Oh, well, I mean, he's going to have a hard time this entire Tom Talks, because this is mostly semantics, but I did find it fascinating.
I think the way what's that?
I was saying, but I do find it fascinating. Like, I know it can be it can feel kind of pedantic, but
to me, home brewing would be if, like, okay, let's
that gun.
Let's take the gun
or the shovel or something. What was it that in y'all's game?
Oh yeah, I'm sure Heath has got that all queued up, so I won't steal his thunder on that. But I will say that, like, in our Storm King's Thunder game, for instance, there was a piece of armor that, like, I completely made. You know what I mean? Like, made the stats for everything. You cannot find that armor anywhere in any published material. And it also had a lot of narrative impact to the story. To me, that part was homebrewed. However, there was also a little gnome NPC that was, in the adventure, but again, similar to what you were just saying, became a bigger part of the story, and as such had to become a little bit more robust of a stat block of an NPC. But I don't think that I homebrewed Alistair. I just embellished him to fit the story. I do think that I homebrewed the item that was in there because that was made from scratch. You know what I mean? I don't think that you can say that anything that deviates from what's written in an adventure narratively becomes homebrewed, because that's not how adventures are meant to be run. You're supposed to embellish the adventures, APs or modules or whatever are there to give you the basis for you to work on and then develop with your players in those circumstances. So I have a hard time saying, oh, well, just because our story deviated a little bit from what's written, well, that's homebrew. I don't think that that's the case.
Well, and that, I think, is why this conversation is so tricky, is because the nature of this kind of game itself is that you are purchasing a product that is designed to be fucked with. It is there for you to mess with. Now, you can run it straight. I mean, you can run it just by the words on the book, and plenty of people do and have a great time. But insofar as, like, what is homebrew, like, it just becomes really slippery. That's what I keep coming back to, is, like, when you're trying to go through these, like, rigid definitions of it, like, none of them seem to be, like, spot on, you know? Like, none of them are 100% accurate, in my opinion.
That's why I like using it as a generalized term rather than a specific term, because I think it is too general of a topic to be so specific. You know what I mean? Because it can cover such a wide scope of things. Because while it does cover that item again, in the Hacky Sack Heroes, all of that's homebrew. Everything that we play in that is homebrew, because Emily is creating those scenarios, is creating those monsters, is creating those NPCs, you know?
But she is using an established system. She's using them based on the rules of an established system.
Right, but she's still creating stat blocks that don't exist anywhere else. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if we're talking about homebrewing whole systems is the only way you be homebrew, then I have nothing else to say in this conversation.
That is the most, like, far, like, to use political parlance, the, like, hard right-wing, like, sect of what homebrew is. And then it's like, well, not everybody's a fucking game designer.
Yeah,
you know? And so many games have already been designed, like, you're hard-pressed to have every person who cares about homebrew create a whole new system.
Yeah, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel when, you know, great shit exists already, so...
Yeah,
Well, I don't think you need to homebrew either.
Yeah.
I think that the system, the core rules, are your tools that you then use to homebrew.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, and I think, you know, one of the particularly tricky things about homebrew and people that... are diehard, like, I want to homebrew everything, is that if you are not very, very knowledgeable about game balance, you're going to continually fuck shit up. Like, you're going to get people killed, or your encounters are going to be too easy, you know? It's very tricky. I mean, you need, if you're going to be very into the, like, I want to move into a whole new era of, like, I'm heavily homebrewing a lot of stuff, like, there's a certain amount of hubris that you could fall prey to.
For sure, yeah.
Okay, so now that to some degree we've sussed out, to the best of our abilities, what homebrew is, I wanted to talk a little bit about our own experiences with the general term of homebrewed content. I wanted to start with Emily, because she probably has the most experience with homebrewing stuff. I know my own experience with homebrewed or off-book content, which that's another term, is you could just use, like, off-book. Like, this may not be homebrewed, but it's off-book.
Yeah, that's true.
But my experience with homebrewed or off-book content is really limited. So, Emily, just how much homebrew content would you say you've been involved with? Obviously, you're running Hacky Sack Heroes for us. But neither Adam nor I are privy to all of your DMing shenanigans and machinations.
Good use of the term machinations. I fucking love that word. It's like one of my top 5 favorite words. Sorry, I digress.
You're welcome.
I would say in my in-person games. So I'm running currently. Curse of Strahd is kind of my ongoing campaign with my in-person group, and I would say I'd use about 85% of the actual content of the campaign is legit, straight from the book, because as I said before, you know, it's an established AP. It's good. It's good stuff. It's been as popular as it is, especially for 5e, you know, for a reason. Great character, very great settings. But I do add in a lot of items because I like to lean into and I've used this term a few times, I like to fuck with my players in that game, particularly because it is Gothic horror. So I will homebrew a lot of different small level items that, for instance, there is an occasion or 3 that the players in this game will meet with hags. and hags are notorious for having very interesting layers and items within said layers that are literally designed to do nothing but cause mischief and mayhem and evil against the person who tries to use it. So a lot of cursed items, small level, just kind of interesting things to keep the game very lively, and have had some overall very impactful moments on the game. The whole experience. Outside of that, though, I don't necessarily mess with a whole lot, with the exception of the Rakshasa character and another character that I just kind of like changed his whole stat block, but I won't really speak to it because it's a big spoiler. But for the most part, I do stick very much to the written AP. Outside of that, I do a few one-shots periodically. I have a few people in like my local friend group that are trying to get into the TTRPG scene, and I act as kind of like a shitty Sherpa for that in certain aspects. And
shitty Sherpa.
Sherpa.
I in the course of this conversation, and I hate to cut you off, I've already decided I want each of you to create a new character for the next game you're in, and you can be shitty Sherpa, Emily. And I want Adam to be a former military leader called General Specific.
I think that they could pair quite nicely together. It would be very interesting. But I homebrew all of that. Any of the one shots that we do, I put together the entire setting, help them. For that, it is all setting. I do, of course, use 5e for all of those, because that's really what people are more comfortable coming to me asking me for. So I'm using those set rules, but I build the setting and the scenarios and everything. And then, of course, with Hacky Sack Heroes, everything there is using the Starfinder, the core rulebook, the core system, and then I have built, planets, new monsters that are kind of sort of piecemealed from a few different variations on a few different creatures across a few different systems. But yeah, I mean, again, in every one of those things, the core system is still on book, as it were. But I do a lot of flavor enhancement as when it comes to like settings and certain NPCs and monsters. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
You built a whole planet? You're over here playing God? Building
Technically,
planets?
I've built 4 planets now, so.
Jeez, your resume is amazing.
Humble brag.
Humble brag. Yeah. Weird flex. Okay.
Hashtag humble brag. So Adam, I mean, you obviously are the GM I have the most experience with. I have played for other GMs, Zach. But you run a lot of games. I mean, you do and have run a lot of games. I mean, I don't even, off the top of my head, I would guess that you've run, 11 games?
It's probably getting upwards about 15 at this
Jesus Christ. So, I also know about you that you are...
Hashtag humble brag.
Yeah.
Weird flex.
You guys are killing it. We're gonna make a one-shot adventure so you can play Shitty Sherpa and General Specific, and they just humble brag the whole time.
I love it.
But no, you've played, run a lot of games. You haven't played in very many. But I know you're also very much a by the numbers guy. You're a by the book, running it as close to the book as you can. And the slippery thing about this conversation about homebrew is that even you, a kind of more straight-laced kind of GM, necessarily have to, go with the flow and change things on the fly. So I know it's a difficult question to ask, but how much homebrew, would you say you've inserted into your games?
Well, I mean, I guess a lot of times it depends on the game, but as I mentioned in Storm King's Thunder, there was definitely a couple different magic items that I constructed and built and added into that game. With the curse that I'm running, I have changed some of the treasures that are in there to actually be more meaningful. For instance, and this is slight spoilers for Strahd. I'll just say that one of the 3 main artifacts that you're trying to find is pretty underwhelming when you get it. It really doesn't have any kind of mechanical purpose. So I put in a mechanic system of being able to research this artifact. And the more you research it, the more like you can actually learn some information. There's dice rolls and stuff that can go in that. Although I didn't particularly come up with that. I found that online through different resources, but there's a way to kind of expand this particular artifact. But I would consider that homebrewing that artifact to have more mechanical value.
Actually, if you found it from another source, it's like adding Tabasco to your Devil's Harvest. You didn't homebrew it.
I didn't. That's what I just said.
I know. I'm just fucking with you.
Somebody else homebrewed it. I'm reaping their benefits, but I'm drinking their Tabasco beer.
Yeah.
Gross.
But then, of course, in Aeon Throne, in Southern Tomfoolery, I mean, we homebrewed an entire minigame. You know,
that's true.
I mean, that was ground up. There is no boxing rules in the core rule book. This was, you know, but we did use the math that is present in the core rule book to kind of guide us through that. And then, of course, we had help with Brian and Sheo kind of contributing to that and making the full robust boxing system that we have. So what I like to do is I think APs are really good because they, for the most part, are in tandem with the math and the balance of the system. And so, like, it's really difficult, as we kind of touched on earlier, to maintain that balance. You can either make something really OP or really underwhelming very easily without a full understanding of the rules. So that's why I like to use the APs. But I like putting like little mini systems into the APs, like little mini games or like little mini, like there was for a while Josh and Zach's characters in Southern Tomfoolery had like corruption points, which is not a 5e mechanic. It is a Pathfinder mechanic. Come to find out, I didn't know that at the time.
Point of clarification, you said Southern Tomfoolery, you mean Storm King's
Thunder, thank you, yeah. They, you know, as they did things, they had to roll these dice. So that's the kind of homebrewy stuff I like. Items and like little mini games, little mini mechanics.
So that kind of leans into where I was about to go with this, which is like rules changes. And inevitably we were going to get to the boxing thing, which, you know, obviously is one of the few like kind of homebrewed experiences that I've had, and I thought was very cool in that not only was it, I would consider for sure homebrewed, but that it was very much a collaborative homebrew. It was a project between multiple people, not just one person claiming credit for it. You know, you and I play tested it, and well, you and I came up with the base rules for it, because I had a little more boxing knowledge than you did. You had more of the math knowledge than I did, and then we kind of put it out there a little bit once the episode's released, and got help from the community, and that to me was very cool. Like, and that's one of the ways in which homebrew can be very satisfying, and not just, you know, doing homebrew for the sake of homebrew. But I did want to ask about rule changes in particular, and what other than the boxing game, what other kind of rule changes you guys have implemented. I know the one I could think of for sure was when Adam ran Tomb of Annihilation. There is an exploration mechanic when you're exploring this giant jungle that everybody kind of got real bogged down in and was not having a good time, and you kind of hand waved a little bit or simplified.
Yeah.
And so what was the specifics of, like, what did you change about that?
Okay, so in Tomb of Annihilation, there's a large map that has the old school hex crawl.
Oh, hey, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. I finished my beer, so I was going to let you guys know what my next one is. I rolled a 2, and I got a Golden Road Melon Cart. Have you ever heard of that?
Okay.
It is a watermelon wheat ale with honeydew and cantaloupe.
Oh my God, where did you get that?
Corner Market.
I have also switched myself just now to the Left Hand Brewing Company Milk Stout Nitro. Very good. Very good.
That's an Emily beer.
Mm-hmm. You had me at Milk Stout, and then you really had me at Nitro.
Yeah, so Golden Road. I've never heard of that brewery.
I haven't either.
I don't know.
I'm going to have to look for that. That sounds
yeah,
really good.
I don't know where they're based out of.
Anyway, so in Tomb of Annihilation, there's this old school hex crawl portion. It's a big chunk of the adventure to where you're uncovering hexes through this jungle. And what you're supposed to do is roll a bunch of different rolls for each hex. You have to roll for the weather each day. You have to roll for random encounters in the day, in the afternoon, and in the evening. And then there's also this getting lost mechanic to where you can end up in a hex that you didn't mean to be ending up in. And like at first, I was like, oh, this would be cool. This is something different. But in play, it just didn't work for the table. So what I ended up doing is I kind of went to already chosen random encounters. And I went ahead and did all the weather rolls ahead of time and put it on this calendar that I made. So all that stuff was already done.
Spreadsheets.
And so it got to be much more fluid. And to me though, that I don't think that was homebrewing. That was house ruling. Which I think that there is a difference, right?
So that's the question I was going to ask. Which I think I'll state it more generally. Are there situations in which you would consider streamlining or simplification of a system homebrew?
No,
it's just house ruling.
No. Yeah,
it's house ruling. Yep.
Okay, I have to ask because it's the theme of the show.
Yeah. It's in the same feel for sure, but that is definitely just house ruling things for the table, versus homebrewing. I think homebrewing requires a little bit of creative input.
Yeah.
You have to be creating something to homebrew, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's the difference kind of between an actual rules creation versus fiat.
Mm-hmm. But reduction is always going to be based on an established system that inherently can't be homebrewed because you are just reducing something else.
Right.
Okay.
You're not creating anything new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even reduction necessarily. It's just simplification in advanced or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Technically, the rules were still there, but I just instead of waiting until the session to do the rolls and then look up what that random encounter was and see that this random encounter has nothing to do with the through line of the story. It's what I'm going to do is roll, see where the random encounters go, and then I'm going to look through the random encounters, pick the ones that make sense for this group's story, and then I did homebrew a few random encounters there, though. I will say that there are some random encounters that I put in there that I wanted to do, that aren't in the book, that aren't a random encounters option in the book. It was just I think I want them to meet a crazy talking bush, so they're going to meet a crazy talking bush.
My brain farted.
I could smell it from here.
What smells like watermelon and cantaloupe.
That's a pleasant
By the
fart.
way, this beer is delicious.
I gotta find it.
Amazing.
Gotta find it, man.
We'll pause. Okay, so as far as this homebrew conversation we're having, I only have one more little topic before we kind of get out of here. I know we've talked about Curse of Strahd a lot. I'm sorry for all the Paizo hardcores. A lot of our experience before we started Starfinder was in 5e, and that's just the nature of who we are as players. But I know...
I'm not going to apologize for it. Go play Curse of Strahd and then talk to me about not liking 5e.
Hideous laughter. Calm your tits. Okay, Griffin. Calm down.
Yeah.
Curse of Strahd is great.
Specifically.
Well, you guys...
Calling you out, Griff.
You guys know my opinion on the edition wars. I think it's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Let people enjoy what they enjoy and give things a chance. But I know both of you, Emily, you're running a Curse of Strahd game, which is 5e, and Hacky Sack Heroes, which is Starfinder, Homebrew. And then, of course, Adam is also running a Curse of Strahd game, as well as being the GM for Against the Aeon Throne. But I was curious whether you guys feel like one of these systems more readily lends itself to homebrew.
Oh, I think 5e lends itself to homebrew more than anything because it's the most tight system. Like, it's really hard to fuck up 5e. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I took tight as the wrong thing. I was like, oh man, I think it's kind of more like easy. Like, I know what you were saying with that though.
Like tight on the numbers, and like it's like, to go back to the old comparison that we did when we did our TOMTalks on Edition Wars. 5e is a Mac, and Pathfinder or Starfinder is like a high-tuned PC. Like if you know what you're doing, yeah, you can homebrew the shit out of that. But you can also really, really, really fuck it up if you don't know what you're doing and you put the wrong pieces in the wrong place. A Mac, you can't get in there and fuck with the inner workings as much, but you can't fuck it up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good conversation, guys. I mean, like I said, I wanted to do this one because homebrew is a much more complex conversation than I initially thought it was. But, again, good stuff. Adam, do we have any listener questions this week?
We do have some listener questions. I mean, we've got enough listener questions, I think, to do a whole TOMTalks of listener questions, but I've picked out some relevant ones for today. So we're going to start with the ones that are for Emily specifically. So, Emily, Porter Paladin asks, how do you design encounters? Have you noticed contrast between your approach and other DMs you have talked shop with?
So my encounter approach is it starts off really basic. I love me some encounter generators to get kind of a base idea of like CR and just kind of get some of the juices flowing a little bit. But I have found, specifically with my 5e group, my Strahd group, they are a little OP, and I've had some issues as we've played with encounters that I thought should have been like deadly, and they just wiped the floor with them, and it was like an ongoing thing. So I actually had to approach how I build encounters a little bit differently. So I'll be honest, I don't necessarily talk a lot of shop with any other DMs, GMs about like actual encounters. Adam and I talk a lot about like story elements and variations on that. But I don't necessarily get into the numbers a lot with anybody. Numbers are not my thing. I'm very much story driven. So encounters has been something that I have really had to dig into. Getting the numbers right behind that so that the fight is balanced was really something that I kind of struggled with. But I have found that I really like to use a couple of different things when building kind of like unique different encounters. Using the terrain as part of the encounter is really important, I think. Especially when you have these fleet ass motherfuckers that can move, 80 feet and around in just their movement. Or no, what was it? Stripe's character
he could move like 120 feet or something like that in one round.
And then still have an action. Like, it was stupid. But so definitely using the terrain to your advantage. In like one thing that we recently did, there was like hidden difficult terrain that I kind of like threw at them periodically around the map, so that it kind of like fucked with them. Another aspect that I have really found to be helpful, and this was kind of hard for me to wrap my brain around, rolling initiative twice for the same monster, like a boss, essentially. It kind of helps to break up some of the action economy that otherwise can either let your players wipe the floor or can get your players killed.
So what do you mean? You roll 2 initiatives and then decide where you want to place them based on that?
Or they get 2 turns.
They get 2 turns. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Essentially.
You're just giving them 2 turns, or am I confused about something?
No, I roll 2 initiatives, and then that monster or whatever, and this is only for like large scale single monsters. I don't necessarily do this
so
for
it's like kind of like giving legendary actions to monsters that don't have legendary actions.
Which is the next thing. So specifically.
It would be buffing that creature up a little bit in some regard.
But it's definitely buffing.
But it's so that, like, if you roll a low initiative for the monster and everyone goes before him, they don't kill him in one turn.
Exactly, which is something that very recently happened again in my Strahd game. Because I decided I didn't want to do that. I was like, I'm going to go easy on them because of where the dungeon they're at. They're already having a lot of issues. Fuck them. I should have done that because he did poor initiative and, he was, it was a mess.
How are you going about developing the scenarios for Hacky Sack Heroes?
So for Hacky Sack Heroes, it is very much like, when I build the monster, obviously, I'm building it around a lot of the terrain and the elements. A lot of that goes into what planet they're on, what...
So you're, like, really considering the ecology of the encounter.
Very much so,
because, I think that it's pretty clear that we as a group are going to explore new worlds, and that most of what we are going to encounter is indigenous life forms of new worlds, and so that gives you kind of a construct for each of your scenarios. It's like, okay, I got to build the world first, and then what kind of creatures would live in this world, and then those creatures will have these kind of stats based on that.
Absolutely.
And also, like, of course she's focusing on the ecology because this woman is so powerful that she has created 4 planets by herself.
All right, well, let's move on. This one is also from Porter Paladin, but it's about Ziva. So we're actually going to talk about our main show.
Okay, what? Hey, I did everything I could to avoid it this time.
So the question is about Ziva. This again from Porter Paladin. As far as I know, envoys are not a melee combat class, but Ziva's done fairly well between good tactical cooperation with Mike and having the inevitable downfall. Do y'all think that mid and high level play will start to make that play style more risky? Or does Starfinder have enough in the way of feats and equipment that Ziva can continue to delve into the melee fighting when she wants?
Go ahead, Heath, please.
My answer is yes. It is going to make it a lot more risky, a lot more punishing potentially. Also, this game is in Paizo's vein, very feat heavy, and due to that, there are things that you could do to minimize that risk and to maybe even make it work in your favor if you pick the right feats.
You know what? Heath, you're not wrong. But no, yes, Ziva, I absolutely think that it will make it much more risky to kind of continue in the melee fashion. And if you're, well, I won't say that because people listen if they're not caught up to these. Is that, I don't know where are we at on spoilers.
Maybe don't. Maybe don't.
Yeah.
Say up to 50.
Okay, so Ziva is well aware that her being front fighting is very risky, and that is, a chance that she's taking, and she is doing some soul searching and trying to figure out what is best for her and her party in the future. And I will just say that yes, it's very risky, and yes, there are some feats that I have looked into, but it kind of depends on the next few encounters that we have to see sort of how, and I'll say this, a lot of what Ziva does and a lot of what Emily does is mechanics are built around story.
Yeah.
So if something happens in story that I think is gonna be impactful on her, I'm gonna play her that way.
Yeah.
So
well, and that's a very, very much an integrity move that I appreciate a lot,
Well, I mean, that's something that's really important to our table.
Yeah.
I think all of us choose mechanics based on our stories, right?
Yeah. Well, but I also think this is an interesting question for another reason, and that is that even if you make a not completely optimized character for story reasons or for whatever reason, One thing I like about Starfinder in particular is that there's so many interesting and unique feats out there that you can overcome a certain degree of that by finding feats that not only synergize with your build, but synergize with your party. And that's something I think doesn't get talked about enough, is that feats aren't just for you. The feats you take also interact with your party, and
100%.
Absolutely.
Okay, good answers, team. We're going to move on to the final question for Emily specifically. And, because you're our guest, you get a Bear Claire question.
Yay!
And these are always
you
so risky.
You say
so
yay.
Risky.
You say yay.
All right, so this is to Ziva from Bear. What is the Pools of Paradise policy on shameless nude old men in changing rooms?
Oof.
So what's their YMCA policy?
Big oof. If it's in the changing rooms, I mean, it's very much like...
What if the old man is not in the men's locker room?
Oh, well, no, that's not allowed. No, so so the Pools of Paradise are a very free form fashion kind of place. It's, you are there to enjoy yourself, but of course at everyone else's consent. There are multiple escorts as well as security members that would politely request that individual to GTFO. And so, yeah, no. If he's hanging
He's
down,
where he's supposed to be.
If he's where he's supposed to be, hang that dang all day long, my man.
Hang Thwackle Dang.
Hang back.
Thwackle Dang.
No, I want to piggyback on that one a little bit.
Oh God!
Because the thing is, like, with the Pools of Paradise being the kind of establishment that it is, which I think is very much like a kink inclusive kind of place. Like,
very much so.
What if that's their kink? You kink shaming these people, Ziva? You kink shaming them?
No, and that's where it rolls back to. It all has to go with consent.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
I mean, everybody's got to be on the same page. So
Yeah.
there are boundaries for a reason.
All right, so that's it for the Emily specific questions. Now I do have kind of a general question from Pukeko. Obviously, he says, have you ever played a homebrew campaign? Obviously, we're in the midst of starting playing one now. But the real question here is, how does it differ around the table in comparison to a published AP? And I guess that's more for me and Heath to answer, because you haven't actually played in a homebrew.
No,
have
not
you?
really.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Emily? Yeah. Have you?
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
The very, very first instance of D&D that I ever had was with 9 players, and it was 6 hours long, and it was a hot ass mess, and it was homebrewed, and it almost soured my experience for TTRPGs, but then I found you guys, so it was all fun.
I do think that's the risk you run with people that are like really about doing homebrew but don't do their research, and also and don't know the balance that they need to strike with it. I mean, you said there's 9 people, like that's imbalanced to begin with.
That's too many.
Yes.
Yeah.
But even if you did know the numbers or whatever, I think I would avoid, if you're a heavily homebrew kind of GM, like I would avoid that for new players. Like a new player needs to learn the system and needs to learn the rules of the game. And if you're constantly bending those rules or breaking those rules completely, they don't know what to expect, and they can't get into a routine of what this game is.
Yeah. To be fair, this was just a weird pickup game. It didn't really count, but y'all tell me your experience with homebrew.
So I'll say, for me, and then I'll let Heath answer. For me, I've only played a couple games. But the biggest difference that I feel with the homebrew versus being an AP is that I guess I feel like with Hacky Sack Heroes that the adventure is much more like specific to us as characters. Like, it's not so much that we're like coming into a world that we're having to solve problems of, is that this world is growing with us as characters.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Like it's more customizable to your players kind of thing.
Right. Because everything that we do, I mean, I can't talk too much because that'd be spoilers for the Hacky Sack Heroes, but the recent encounter that we did had some mechanics involved that were very specific to one of our characters, and it made for a really cool experience because like that character got to use their thing, you know what I mean? And I think with Homebrew you kind of have a lot more ability to construct encounters, because you are constructing the encounters, to really take into consideration the players that are playing. That being said, the other side of the coin is playing an AP makes it fun because you make this character that's its own existence, and then that character has to deal with the realities of the adventure that it's in, whether you were tuned for it or not, you know? So there's it's different pros and cons of it, but I think that's the biggest difference that I feel between the two as a player.
Yeah. And as an aside, I do want to clarify, like, the purpose of this Tom Talks is not to say, is Homebrew good or bad? You know, what are the benefits? What are the technicalities? You know, what are the pros and cons? That kind of thing. I think in my experience so far, which is limited to Hacky Sack Heroes, it's hard for me to really give a meaningful response in that regard, because so far, I want to say it's, you know, what's coming up can be more unexpected, but like, you know, also if you're in an AP and you've never played it before, which is the ideal way to do it, like you don't know what's coming up anyways. Like you may have more of an idea flavor wise, like Dawn of Flame is going to have some fire related shit in it, you know, but like I don't think I've had even now enough experience with Homebrew campaigns to really note what the market difference is, you know?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see here. The next question is coming from Alex Giordano.
Hey, Alex.
All right. Do you prefer, as players and or as a DM, having a single individual be the big bad of an AP, i.e. a Rune Lord, or an organization being the big bad, i.e. the Aslanti? Also, when do you prefer to know who the end boss is? Right away or later in the adventure? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll go first if that's cool.
Yeah, get it, girl.
So the first part, I think it is fully dependent on the AP, the setting, you know, as to whether I would prefer it to be a big boss, a single boss, or like, you know, the Aslanti. I will say for setting wise, for horror, I really like a big bad, like a single boss. I think it's very like, you know, that quintessential, like he's the big bad guy in the tower and your whole focus is to get after him. But then I really also love like the dismantling of the organization. I think it really depends on the setting and who the players are as to what my preference is for that. But as for finding out, I really like for the players to know up front or very soon into the game who the baddie is, essentially. But I really enjoy it when the baddie is inserted in secrecy throughout the campaign in different guises or different aspects or faces, you know. Like if you can slip the main villain in as like
as a
confusing ally, yeah, like that is just like to me. So I love that. Yeah.
All right, Heath, what about you? What you think?
So I think this is a difficult question, and as Emily kind of pointed out, a lot of it comes down to execution and how it's done and how the story is written. But to avoid copping out on that, I think, particularly to the aspect of the question of do I prefer a big bad or an organization, I generally lean organization. I think organizations can have an ethos that allows for a lot of nuance in their members, that can have different different Rieslings.
Yes, the Riesling.
Yes,
I'm an alcoholic. No, but the members of said organization can have a lot of different reasons for going along with it, or can even be at odds with it, but be going along because status quo or because of fear of either rejection or being killed or whatever. I do think I tend to lean that. Now, again, we've all played Curse of Strahd, and like a enigmatic, amazing bad guy can really make a campaign click, but I think that's more the exception to the rule than the rule. You know?
I don't have a preference either way, honestly, and I know that sounds like a cop-out, but like as the GM doing a bunch of different adventures, I like having the variety. You know, I like saying, hey, this one's, you clearly got a bad guy on this one, but in this adventure, you know, you're having to... Oh, I think what I like particularly about Aeon Throne is that it's actually a little bit of both, because you go into it thinking that you're trying to dismantle the entire Aslanti Empire, and the further you get in, you realize that there is a singular bad guy that is causing grief here in Zola and Ilvestra, you know. And so I liked, it was one of the big reasons why I picked this adventure to run for the podcast, because you right up front, you know who your enemy is, or you think you do, like the listener, and you guys as players have a antagonist that you can immediately be like, oh, screw these guys, you know. And it seems so big in that, but then like the bigger you get, you realize it's a smaller problem, but a more difficult problem to tackle. So I enjoy that. But yeah, I agree with Emily that it does depend on the situation. And I really like what you said, Heath, about organizations giving you an opportunity to do different levels of the enemy. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a really interesting concept.
Well, and I will say, I think much more than whether the enemy or the, you know, whether it's a big bad or an organization, I'm far more concerned with their motivation. Because one thing that is a pet peeve of mine is like in Dead Sons, the Cult of the Devourer, like evil just for evil's sake without any realistic motivations behind it.
Not interesting.
To me, it's incredibly uninteresting. Like, oh, we want to see the world end, and it's like, okay, why?
Okay, but why?
Yeah.
Okay, but
and
why?
It's like, no, but we do, and it's like, okay, but why? Like, that seems like it would be as bad for you as anyone else. You know?
Nobody's winning in this, my guy.
Yeah. All right, I've got two more questions here. This one comes from Eggman. And you changed your name too much. Yeah, so I'm just going to call you Eggman.
You're a regular half-red over here.
Would you guys ever consider doing an evil character campaign and, you know, a little joke here, call it Southern Tomfuckery to distinguish between the two?
I would love to play an evil campaign. I would think it would be a blast. I know it can be worrisome insofar as like, oh, everybody's just murder hobos or whatever, but I think particularly us, like if we did an evil campaign, I would expect that we would pay the same amount of attention to backstory and motivation as if we were doing a neutral or a good campaign, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I, in my heart of hearts, say yes. I know that, just like he said, an evil campaign is very difficult to balance. I'm really interested, actually. There is the Pathfinder AP.
Hell's Vengeance.
That's the one, yes. Mm-hmm. And that seems very interesting to me. I wouldn't be opposed if anybody ever wanted to run that.
Yeah.
Not you, Adam. But
I want to. I'm not volunteering to run anything else. I'm playing a game before I run.
Hey, well,
else.
you know,
I volunteer Zach to run it. I think Zach.
You know, I got you on the getting to play in a game. So
yeah. All right, last question coming from Bipolar Pop Tart. And I always like to end on like weird, kind of funny little questions. So this one is, what is the weirdest, dumbest activity you would like to try in 0G?
Well, I know Emily's response.
Yes, basket weaving.
Yeah,
you can do it underwater.
I knew it had something to do with ropes.
Yeah, if you can do it underwater, you should be able to do it in 0G,
So
right?
is this question for us as people or for characters?
You did either one.
I think, and this may be a little too on brand for me, but like creating some kind of 0G based sport would be really cool. You know, like some kind of combination of like a
0G polo.
Like basketball or you know, a combination of or whatever that Aztec game was. You know, where you've
Jai-Lai.
Yeah, but I'm talking about have like whether it be Jai-Lai or basketball or whatever, have goals on different planes. Like one, you know, like on the sides, on the ground, up above, maybe even floating and moving kind of thing. I think that would be very cool.
So a serious answer, kind of, and I've actually thought about this for Pools of Paradise. Have like a 0G space and do water art acrobatics. Like essentially, you know how you can see the big globules of water just sort of floating in the space stations and stuff or whatever. Basically, like creating art with the water formations in 0G and then like having acrobatics throughout that. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, you can be the visual component to my 0G activity, which I would love to do a concert in 0G, like somehow be like attached to a platform with all your stuff and just like floating around.
Bro,
that'd be cool.
I would feel so bad for the drummer. Like, I feel like that would be very difficult for a drummer with all the different pieces of a set and like.
Well, no, you'd have to like they'd have to be like on a platform that are bolted, and so your platform is just kind of moving around.
Yeah. I mean,
otherwise you couldn't do it.
I still feel like with drums in particular, like there's an aspect that you kind of don't think about is like when you know like using your kick drum and stuff, like your feet are at rest until you go to kick them. But if they're just floating, like it may be their reaction time might be a little different, you know.
Mostly,
actually,
I'm thinking that inner ear shit would fuck them up.
yeah, that's true. With drumming, actually, I think the recommended technique is that you actually have your kick drum pedal depressed like the whole time until you go. So rather than having your foot off the pedal like you would be if you were driving, you're going to have that kick pedal pushed so the mallet's against the drum, and then you kick it whenever it's time to hit the beat.
Kick it.
Okay.
Sorry.
But
I mean, if you're doing it in 0G, they can just use a drum machine if it's that serious.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Fair.
I love we took that stupid question and went way too like.
Well, that's why I like to end.
Well, that's what we do. You know.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
So that's all the questions. Okay. So I realize now that I was a little bit hasty earlier and I forgot something. Okay. And I'm going to be quick about it. But we're talking about homebrewed items and rule changes and stuff like that. And I really wanted to talk about, again, Curse of Strahd. Sorry, guys. Play it. It's awesome.
Good times.
But when Adam and I played Curse of Strahd, which is one of the few things he's gotten to play in, Zach was the GM. And Zach, what he did is his mentality very much was like, I'm not trying to kill you guys. I want you guys to be powerful and have a great time playing the game. And insofar as achieving that goal is concerned, he basically incorporated a system of loot boxes. So like we'd achieve things and then like either Strahd or like one of the other magical factions or whatever just fucking would drop a box that is like, here's some loot, you know? And he actually created a whole loot table himself, and they were all very cool items. And so I was going to tell you guys about the item that I was most fond of, and if Adam's got one he wants to talk about, that's fine. If not, also fine. But I was particularly fond of this item, and a little background, I was playing a druid who was in 5e terms, was a moon druid, which means he's all about shape-shifting. He's all about changing into animals and like a very like tanky DPS shapeshifter kind of druid. So he created an item for me called the Archdruid's Armbands, and they were Archdruid's Armbands magically adjust their size and fit to any form you take while wearing them. And while you're wearing them, when you cast your wild shape, you gain 1d6 temporary HP for every challenge rating of the beast you become. And while wild-shaped, any creature you attack with your claws must succeed on a DC 12 Wisdom save throw or be forced to target you on the first attack they make during their next turn. So he built that specifically for me to get to be tanky as a druid, right? So I got a bunch of temporary HP, so I could tank stuff via my DPS. But he also, and this is what I think is so brilliant about it, is he basically found a way to incorporate an aggro system into D&D to where I could actively take aggro, like in a World of Warcraft type sense, where I could make enemies target me so they wouldn't target my allies.
Yeah.
And I thought that was
which was
very
helpful,
cool and creative.
Which was helpful because you had a 3-player party, so.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up and give Zach a little bit of credit for one of the very cool homebrew things he did, because he couldn't be here for this episode. And also, before we move on to our closing remarks, I'm going to roll a d4. That's 2. And I have a Lagunitas Supercluster Ale.
I haven't had that one.
Yeah, well, it's very space looking. It's literally described as a Citra hopped mega ale of intergalactic proportions.
That's sexy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so before we get out of here, unless you had something to say, Adam.
Nope.
Before we get out of here, the last closing remarks are, do we have any announcements, Emily? Any business that the listener needs to be abreast of concerning the pod?
Yes, so we actually have a new Patreon goal. So if we do, when we reach $400 a month for our Patreon subscription people, God, I'm winning. We're going to host a Southern Tomfoolery Community Starfinder weekend. So essentially, we're going to kind of act as a liaison to get all of our amazing listeners into some online play using Roll20. We're going to set up some various ways that you can pick out whether or not you want to GM something or you just want to play. We're going to have different Starfinder scenarios available. We'll set them all up on Roll20. But essentially, we're going to help players and GMs connect over a weekend of play with our community, our amazing people. So that's something that we are really looking forward to on that. And this is not for Patreon exclusive people. This is just if we meet this goal, this will be available to everybody. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's
a way for us to get out there and play with y'all.
Yeah.
And because we will all be involved in it, whether we're I think several of us are planning on GMing a game, so maybe you could sit around a table with one of us. I mean, but you might be sitting next to one of us at a table. Who knows? We have a lot of ideas about this. That I will say that is a big reason why we set it at 400. And I know that seems like a high number, but it's really to give us the time to do this properly and to make sure that there's enough interest to do it really big, because we want to. The way we envision it is that we'll have several games going in at once, and it's going to be basically a little kind of mini online convention of play. And so we want to make sure that we can get all the society game scenarios that we want and get everything put into Roll20. That takes a lot of work to do all that, so we need that time, and we want to make sure that there is a big enough player base there to really make it happen.
And
so
I do want to clarify, this is all Starfinder, and that's for a reason. Like, we want to push Starfinder out there. I know, Pathfinder 1E, 5E are kind of more popular systems, but Starfinder has been a big come up, a big new game changer in the TTRPG world, and it's a system that we love and that we want to introduce more people to and get more people interested in playing. So even after this community day, you may want to go and play some Starfinder or start a group yourself and just expand the overall Starfinder community.
Right, and if this goes well, there's nothing to say that we can't do it again, but we just want to make sure that we have everything, all our ducks in a row to do it right. And
not only that, but this as a starter point for individuals who haven't explored the Starfinder or Pathfinder society gaming system. It's very cool. It's something you can do. So we want this to be kind of like a way for you to play with us and other fellow listeners, as well as, again, like Heath said, get into this system and learn more about society play. So
and Starfinder as a whole.
Starfinder is definitely our table's favorite game.
Yeah.
And we're big proponents of it. And so we want I know that a few of you that listen have not played Starfinder and kind of weren't into it until you've heard us, and that's awesome. We're so glad, but let's give you an opportunity to play.
Yeah.
So you can really see it for yourself. I think that's all we have on announcements.
Is it? We're not doing anything bigger than that?
I mean, we're going to PaizoCon in May.
Yeah.
We are going to PaizoCon. Also, I bought my tickets for PAX Unplugged.
Wow. Yeah. So Emily is going to PAX U too, so you get a chance to meet her there if you're in that area.
Yeah, you guys treat her well, especially if it looks like she's going by herself, you know.
Yeah.
I may drag somebody else along, whether they like it or not. We'll see.
Josh. Josh.
We'll see. I don't know. Maybe Josh.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's nearly it. I mean, we got, if there's any thank yous we need to give, always, our homeboy at What Do You Do Pods is a necessary thank you, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Roll20 again, has been sponsoring us for a while. I don't know. I know it's possible that you guys finish the episode, hear the "We'll see you" and cut it off, but we do at the end of every episode give the Roll20 plug. I would like to also mention again Valhaven Studios, because every time I look at my beautiful bag, which is right next to my computer, I'm reminded of how cool that is. Yeah,
and I want to just say, I know we shout them out every time, but HLP, I want to shout them out this time because, y'all, there is definitely something brewing. I know that we've teased it quite a bit, but I think that we finally can officially say that in the near future there is a collaboration show on the horizon between the two of us. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that, because it is happening, and we're very excited about it.
It's coming.
Hideous tomfoolery.
Now you've said too much. We gotta end it. Cut the mic. We gotta end it.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. Thank you, Emily, for being here with us today.
Absolute
I
pleasure.
said they could get a little bit of Emily as a treat. I think they got a lot of Emily as a treat.
Well, everybody deserves get a little Emily inside them. So.
Wow. All right. We're gonna get the fuck out of here.
Now there's
we'll
a
see you.
There it is. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
All right. Hey guys, Heath here again. I just wanted to mention that if you're in the market for a great new set of dice for your TTRPG adventures, then I've got some good news for you. If you head over to NorseFoundry.com, when you make a purchase, you can enter a special discount code given to us by our friends at Norse Foundry and get 15% off. Just enter the discount code STF in all caps, and again, you'll get 15% off your purchase. They've got some amazing dice sets, including some beautiful gemstone dice, aluminum dice, and even some dice that glow in the dark. So head over to Norse Foundry's website and reap the benefits of your dedication to the Southern Tomfoolery podcast. We'll see you.